Tom DeVink. I'm the attorney for Rolling Hills of Maplewood.
And Tom, could you make sure that all the millions of people on the internet who are there can hear you by getting the mic pointed towards you? Thank you very much.
I will. Thank you. Work address is 220 South 6th Street, Suite 1950, Minneapolis. I want to start by defending my client a little bit here on the toilet issue because I think there was a fair amount of miscommunication on that issue. So the record's clear. My client bought this park when both toilets in each shelter had been closed up and shut down. So they were not operating sanitary facilities at the time of the purchase. So to the extent that someone has mentioned that my client, is the one responsible for the toilets being closed off, that's not the case. That's the way my client came to the property. At the last city council meeting that I attended, the suggestion was that the facility should be kept sanitary. I agreed with that. What I didn't understand at that time, because it had not been previously mentioned and I hadn't talked to my client about it yet, is that the facilities were no longer operational. That I was not apprised of at that time. Subsequently, my client determined these cannot be rehabilitated. They needed to be removed to make the area sanitary. I informed Councilmember Juniman of that, I believe, the day after that hearing, and I didn't hear anything back at that time, so we went ahead and removed those to make it a sanitary area and clean up the area. They were not capable of rehabilitation. Subsequently, it came to our attention that that was the wrong move. And so my client did install a brand new toilet and sink at the South Shelter, and that's been accomplished. And certainly, my apologies if there was a miscommunication on that issue, but that's the timeline of what transpired. Certainly with the existing sink and toilet, I was informed could not be rehabilitated and had to be removed. So that's why that was done. It was not despite any requirement of having sanitary facilities. It was just unfortunately necessary. So I hope that addresses some of the council's concerns, and certainly I'm available for questions on the matter.
Well, here you go then, Ms. Juniman.
Okay, I don't want to belabor this because it's really been way too long spent on this to begin with, but I know I'm not the world's most direct person sometimes, but really, they were unsanitary, so they had to remove them. How about reinstalling something better without being prodded? I don't want to belabor this anymore, but let's not play lawyerese games. I don't really care what you didn't or didn't know. Your client owns a park, and I am simply asking that from now on, actually several months ago, forward, a little common sense is engaged in making decisions, and taking out the restroom facilities was anything but common sense, especially when they knew the conversations that had been going on, perhaps a little notice that said we'll be installing new ones. I'm, with all anger intended, I can't believe that your client thinks they have to treat the people who live there like gorillas. Really? That's part of the reason they end up here. Just engage in some common sense and decency, and don't play literal games with us, and don't tell me that wasn't a dodgeball game, because it was. We're not going to debate that anymore. It was. And I just don't want to sit here and do that stuff anymore. Well, I really don't. And I don't want to hear about how good their parks are, none of that stuff.
Unless you really want to, you'd be better off not to respond to her. If you feel you have to defend yourself, I guess go ahead.
No. I just want the council member Juniman to know that I've heard her. And,
all right.
Thank you.
Mr. Antonin?
Just a quick clarification. I understand that the restrooms will be reinstalled. In talking with the one of the residents beforehand, in the initial placement of the restrooms there, they had stalls, I understand. The question is, were the stalls removed for ADA requirements or whatever? And if so, I can understand that. If they weren't, is that part of the original conditional use also applies to stalls for the commodes, obviously?
Councilmember, I cannot speak to why the stalls were removed. I can raise that with the contractor that received the permit and did the work and report back.
Councilmember?
But I understand it was inspected.
I don't know if I've been elevated or not, but I think...
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry.
This is our city manager, Jim Anderson.
City manager.
The point is, if they were removed because of ADA regulations, I can understand that. If they were removed just for convenience sake for cleaning or something like that, then they should be reinstalled appropriately.
And I can't indicate that we used a licensed plumber, and it has been inspected, I believe, by the city, but I'll certainly report back on that.
Okay.
Mr. Lannis?
I'm sure your fees are well earned this evening, because it's of no great pleasure to you, I'm sure, to come here and listen to this, but it has been no great pleasure of ours to receive the countless emails and phone calls and staff time responding to those Maplewood residents. And it seems like at the end of the day, you have a PR nightmare because good judgment wasn't exercised. And we can debate that, but at the end of the day, what we need to do is take care of our residents, plain and simple. And as an owner of the park, I would think that he would also want to make sure that his tenants are also being taken care of. So from my understanding, the south area was open and is operational, correct?
Correct.
Is there a plan for the north one to be reopened, or is that not on the table anymore?
We do not have a bid yet for that work.
But bids are being taken, and there is a plan to reopen that north one. Is that correct?
I have not discussed with my client specifically when that's going to happen, but that is going to happen. I can report back on the time frame to the council.
Well, and so I didn't ask if there is a plan to reopen the north one. Is that what you just
Yes.
said? Thank you.
Yes. I would.
Mr. Nephew?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry if you needed to add further information there.
Did you have something else to add to Mr. Lannis's question?
Oh, only that, by way of explanation, this is a condition that had existed for approximately a decade, and to my knowledge, it had not been something that we had received numerous complaints of from the residents. So it is being addressed, I believe, in a relatively timely fashion, in that this is a complaint that arose as a result of the conditional use permit process, which we just went through, I believe, in July and August. I certainly don't want I'm not saying there's never an issue with this, because I can't tell you that. I don't manage the park myself personally, but I don't want the council to get the impression that this is something that's been a hot button issue that we've been fighting with back and forth with anyone with for a very long time. And it just came up this summer.
And I think I said at the very beginning that you have a PR issue, because there is a perception by some of the residents that believe that those were operational, and the time frame that you're telling us is different than what we're hearing from those residents. And so that's what I'm talking about, that there are some just general lack of information of a he said, she said sort of thing, and that we get stuck in the middle, because that's your right, because we're talking about the conditional use permit. So my only question to you was, there is a perception that at one point both of those were operational and now they're no longer, and so my only question is, I heard you say, I should say, I want to clarify, I asked you, is there a plan to get the north one operational? And you said yes.
Yes.
We just don't know a time frame.
Right, and I had talked with the new regional manager for this area, and he wants me to call him on his cell phone right after the city council meeting, and I'll be doing that. He will, probably not one of the millions watching right now, but I will be calling him when I leave.
Thank you.
I'd call him about 11:30. He won't know what time we actually get done. Bill a few extra hours.
I don't.
Are there any other comments from the council to the owner's representative, Mr. Nephew?
Oh, this is actually not for him, but we haven't actually opened the public hearing yet, right?
Yes, we did. That's
Oh,
why
we
he's
did?
up.
We did? Okay. Well, I was wondering if, at this point, if we wanted to go through any of the particulars, and he could certainly let us know if any of those things were
Why don't we
problems.
Why don't we hear from anyone else who wants to
Yeah,
speak? without
exactly.
A lot of interruption.
I
You have
can
more to
actually
say?
address that relatively quickly. On the conditional use permit side, my client's only reason for petitioning for the amendment was to allow used homes.
Right.
That's it. That's all, the only change we ever asked for.
And this is just a formality to go through the cleanup, and so I think it'll just be a matter of running through the clauses that were in the original too, and making sure that they're still there.
Do you have additional comment at this point?
Not at this time.
Okay. If you want to sit down, we'll let a couple other people
Thank you.
speak. Well, come on up. Name and address.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Paul Ruby. I'm president of the Rolling Hills Resident Association. I live at 1334 Pearson Drive. Guess you all know me by now. Main reason I came here won't take even as long as the owner. And we're just the people out there that have to deal with these characters. I will give them credit. They did put in the toilets this last week. And by the way, we also have something called a petition and doors. So you can go into the bathroom and actually close the door. The only thing they did fail to do is put a roll of toilet paper up there. But maybe we'll pass a hat in the park and we can get a roll of toilet paper. Okay. The only other thing I wanted to talk about was this here. This is over on the north end. This is the picture of it. It had a toilet in there before, and they say it was non-operational. It was made operational because of a problem, not with the plumbing, but because of a pipe, the stink pipe that goes up. The stink pipe goes up above, and it's a below-ground unit with a short wall. And kids got up. We have teenagers in the park, unfortunately, some of these little rascals, and they get up on the park and they put rocks down that pipe. And that's what they did. So that was an excuse to take it out. Them can be taken out very simply with a small pipe. Give me 20 minutes and I can have that thing cleaned out. You can put an extension on it and get this thing working. But when I asked for toilets in the North Shelter, I want to add one more thing, and I hate to have to ask for this, but it would be kind of nice if we had petitions and a door so that the people that go in there could have privacy. I know that's asking an awful lot, but we would like to have doors to our toilets, if that would be possible. That's probably about the main other thing. I did have one other thing that didn't have anything to do with this, but I would like to mention Minnesota statute. This is state law, 327C.20 rules. Attendance must be available at all times. This is something we've had a problem in our park. We have 357 families. We're down to there's 9 empty lots right now and about 22 homes that are for sale. A lot of people wanted to get out and a lot more that would love to get out. But it says right here, all manufacturing home parks shall contain more than 50 lots. The tenant, caretaker, or other responsible park employee should be readily available at all times in case of emergency. That's state law. We do not have anybody on site. They call on site being if you can be reached by telephone. When people come in there on weekends, they're driving way too fast. We're getting a lot of new young families in there, some Latino families with lots of kids. This is one of the reasons I brought up the thing about the signs, the stop signs and the more speeding signs. That's a problem we're trying to get addressed. We need that. We're going to have some kids get it. But that's one of the problems we need. We need someone there in attendance. And it says right here that they have to have someone in attendance. And to me, attendance means someone there. And other than that, we thank you all. And Kathleen, especially, I want to give you a special thank you, gal. Really appreciate it. Mr. Nephew, and all the other members that have listened, and you see what we're putting up with out here. Thank you very much.
Mr. Nephew?
This was still from before. We're still in the public hearing right now, right?
We are, but I thought that maybe you were going to say something to Paul, but he's left.
No,
so.
this was just from the same previous thing.
Okay. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this particular issue? Surely you all came to talk about restrooms? No? I would like to just make a comment, and actually I wish Paul hadn't left. But my understanding is that at least the one shelter, I guess I'll call it the south shelter, is kept locked unless there's an emergency. Is that correct? Do you know? And it sounded like the north shelter is more open or something. That's the impression I got from emails and whatnot, that was kind of more